Twilly-dilly-dee, 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 tweet, 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 tweet.
She talks to the people all night long, chatting and a-gabbing and a-singing her song. All the divas down on Rainbow Street love to hear Toni go tweet, tweet, tweet. Talking Toni.
Tweet, tweet,
Talk, talking Toni.
tweet, twilly-dee,
Oh, talking Toni really gonna talk tonight.
tweet, twilly-dee.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Talking Toni. I'm Toni Holmperm, the singing diva of Long Island, and this is my interview show here on the Strong Island Entertainment Network, where I get to chat with some of the many, many, many fabulous people on Long Island, and now, thanks to Zoom, all over the world. Joining me today from Florida is author Preston Allen. Welcome, Preston.
Hi, thank you.
So nice of you to join me here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Preston, you are the author of the fantasy novel, The Coven's Son.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, and it's actually it won the Coven Wars contest for best book cover, I believe.
Yeah, it was in August. I won top number one, first place.
Mm-hmm. Well, that must have been like really felt great, you know.
Yeah. Oh, that was amazing. The book's only been out, I think, 4 months now, and that came out. That was like 2 months after I released the book. So that was really, really exciting to win something so soon.
Of course. Now, unfortunately, I have not had a chance to read the book yet. I promise I will. I've just been extremely busy. Halloween for drag queens is like,
yes.
do I have to tell you? It's like insane. I'm still coming off that. But before we do delve into the Coven's Son, I'd like everyone to get to know you a little bit more. So,
okay.
Who is Preston Allen?
Well, I grew up in Pennsylvania, and when I was about 10 years old, we moved to South Florida. Around sixth grade or so, we decided to try homeschooling, and that was a couple of years into that was when I kind of started getting into writing because I had a lot more free time than the average school. Well, now a lot of people are homeschooling through Zoom and things like that. But when I did it, the requirement was only 3 hours a day, and then you had the rest of your day. So I used a lot of that to write and then get ideas and things like that. And then when I turned 21, I wanted to fulfill that lifelong dream of working at Disney World. So I packed up and left, and I came to Orlando, which is where I'm at now.
Where you reside with your husband?
Yes. Me and my husband have a house here in Orlando.
Oh, very nice. And how long have you two been married?
We've been married. We just celebrated 3 years married, but 10 years together.
Congratulations. My husband and I, we're together almost 20 years now.
Oh, wow. Good for you.
I can't believe it.
You're both alive.
we're still breathing, at least tonight. Tomorrow, it's anybody's guess what may happen. So, were your parents, were they supportive of you with wanting to do all this writing as a child?
I didn't tell them.
Oh,
they didn't know anything about it until I accidentally, once I had gotten picked up by a publisher. I accidentally created an author page and invited my dad to like it before I was ready to, because I was going to surprise him with the book because I had been picked up with a publisher. I was just going to mail him a book. I wasn't going to say anything. I was just going to send it in the mail. And I invited him to like my author page. So then, of course, my phone blew up and he was like, what is this page? What is this author? What's going on? And I had to explain to him, the last 15 years I've been writing and never told you. And now I got picked up by a publisher and I'm writing a book. So that was just kind of my own little secret thing that I did. The only one that actually knew, I think, was my younger brother, because I would send him chapters to get his feedback.
And this is the Coven's son that we're referring to.
Yes and no. The Coven's son started when I was like 17. So we went through a period where I wrote so much of it, and that was like, it didn't predate the internet, but it predated the popularity of the internet. So I was writing it on a word processor with a floppy disk.
Wow.
And I lost the floppy disk.
Oh no.
So it had to be restarted. But I definitely lost sight of it for a while. And then when I picked it back up, it's the same subject matter. It's still witches. That was always going to be the theme, but this is kind of like 2.0 version because it's not the same thing that I originally had written.
Now, Preston, are you a Wiccan?
No.
Oh, you're not?
I am not. No. My mom, who passed away about 6 years ago, she had a period where she went through studying the craft and was very interested in it. And that is part of kind of like the motivation behind the book, was her interest in that. But no, I've never practiced it, but I love the aesthetics of it.
Okay.
I mean, if you see behind me, I've got the skeleton back there, and I've got a whole wall of apothecary herbs, and I love the look of it. So my whole office is decorated that way, but I don't practice.
Oh, okay. Just curious. I mean, I'm like curious about everything. It does seem that there are a lot of people in the LGBTQ plus community that are, Wiccans or very interested in Wiccanism. Is that the right term? Wiccanism? I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah, no.
Maybe I made up a new word.
Yeah, but that's true. There is a lot of that. While I was doing research for the book, I joined a lot of groups focused on that, and a lot of them, because it was a male protagonist in my book, I joined a lot of male witch groups and things like that, and a large majority of them were LGBT. So
yeah, my very good friend, who I do another show with, Alexis Flame, she happens to be a witch, and it's also a drag queen, and I've noticed that that a lot of LGBTQ plus people, the community, are drawn to being Wiccan, and of course it does not hurt that Wiccans are very accepting of us. That's I think where a big draw is that you're accepted regardlher of who you are or how you identify. Exactly. I mean, it doesn't hurt because there's certainly a lot of other religious groups that are not quite so accepting of us. So yes, and to find one that even history dates back, it was always accepted, and even when you go into like non-binary issues and things like that, those people were kind of held at a higher standard than people who did have some sort of binary identification. That's so true. I believe, like, especially like in Native American culture, people who felt that they were, both male and female. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they were regarded as sort of almost like a demigod, or in a way, or something along those lines, because they were special. They embodied both aspects of male and female. Yeah, it was definitely seen in a positive light. I know it's I believe it's two-spirit. Yes, the term for natives. Yeah, so that explains a lot of the draw. And a lot of this predates Christianity. Oh yeah, it goes way back. So the concept of homosexuality and believing oneself to be non-binary, being out of favor in society, really has only come along, kind of late in as far as like the history of the world goes. Oh yeah. Yeah, we're definitely late to the game on that for widespread acceptance. Because I mean, we've always been here. Right. Yeah. We've always been here. It's not a new thing. No, it's not. It's totally not a new thing. So why why it's been hard to gain the acceptance, I don't know. But now let's talk about the Coven Son.
Okay.
So tell me, and give me a little synopsis of what the Coven Son is about.
So it's a fantasy novel about a coven of witches, who in this world always give birth. Their first child is always a female, and that female siphons the magic from the mother during birth. And this follows a story of a character named Oak, who is the first male born as a first child to this coven in over 250 years. And it's basically the coven trying to figure out how to handle the male's powers, because the males come out much more powerful because they are so much more rare. And then they find out along the way exactly who he is and who he is meant to become.
Interesting. That sort of reminds me a little bit of the book Dune, because there was something in I remember in the Dune book where the Bene Gesserit, they were sort of like witches. Would they were always only supposed to have like female children, and the one she deliberately had a male, and they were very much worried because there was a similar thing where a male would be much more powerful, and they were afraid they couldn't control the male, they would not be able to control them. So
that's really interesting. I'm gonna have to look into that. I've never even heard of that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no.
well, no,
not familiar.
I'll
look that up.
I mean, it's not the most original theme, of course, but it's just you might want to go back now and read Dune.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to see how it was approached in that vein.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that was so similar. That
and of course, Dune is well, I guess it'd be sci-fi.
It's more
fantasy, because they were on another planet, and it was there were a lot of allegories with the Middle East and oil and things like that. But there is that one little thing. It's just that one little thing where they were supposed to only be a female born, and there's a male born. Sort of, it reminds me just a pinch of Dune. So you might want to read into Dune and just
definitely, it sounds interesting.
Just because that one little aspect is similar. But of course, the Coven Son now is set in present day, correct?
I wrote it to be very vague.
Oh, okay.
So that whatever your time frame is in your head is correct. Right. There is a solid answer, but I kind of leave that up to your own interpretation. But I did make it a point to not include a lot of technology so that it didn't date it. If somebody makes a phone call, they walk out of the room. So you don't know if they're using a landline. You don't know if they're using a cell phone. You don't know what they're doing. I kept it very generic. I think the only thing I mentioned is a TV. And I don't talk about if it's, a projection box or if it's a flat screen or what it is. So it has its own time frame, but it's meant to be whatever you're getting from reading it.
Mm-hmm. And along with it being set in the present day, the real world, there's also a fantasy world, or not a fantasy, but another realm.
Yeah. Yes, there's another realm.
So tell me about this other realm.
Yeah, so the other realm this is something I researched really heavily regarding witchcraft and things like that. This is the realm of the Fae. So basically the fairies, fairy realm. They basically discover that the fairy realm is being destroyed, and it's not this beautiful atmosphere that they knew it to be. And basically they're searching out to figure out why it's destroyed and what's happening and why it's not what they saw it as the last time they were there.
Interesting. And Oak, I guess through the course of the story, he's able to move back and forth between the two realms that Earth and the Fae?
So what happens with him is he starts having kind of hallucinations that are getting him in trouble at school and just in general. And his family are kind of chucking it up to the fact that he is the firstborn male witch and that he can't control his powers. And they go on this kind of journey and adventure to get answers as to why these hallucinations are happening and how to stop them. And part of that journey is to travel to that realm and get their final answer. So he does only go once because that's kind of like his call is to make it there.
Okay. Now, one of the things I remember reading is during the course of the story, when he's trying to like control the hallucinations or the powers, that he's using garlic?
Yes. So garlic is used as like a protection in witchcraft, and I just kind of elaborated on that because I wanted everything to be as authentic as possible and realistic and something that you would actually use. And so basically Oak's powers, without suppressing his powers by ingesting garlic, tables shake, windows shatter. There's just like this constant outburst, and he has to eat garlic and keep it in his system in order to suppress and keep the powers under control. And because he's in high school and he sweats and smells like garlic all the time, he comes across these issues where he's being bullied because he's constantly smelling of garlic. So he kind of needs to come up with an alternate option to suppress his powers. And that's kind of how everything starts off. And gets the ball rolling is they create something to stop it.
Now personally, being half Italian, I could eat garlic like every day. It doesn't bother me at all. But another question I wanted to ask you now is Oak part of the LGBTQ plus community? Is there?
So I haven't made any mention of that because I really wanted the focus to be the adventure and his journey. So I made it a point to not include any sort of romantic interest, any sort of sexuality in him. So I kind of just left it up in the air. That wasn't the point. That wasn't the focus. I didn't want any side story with any sort of distraction from what was happening. Okay. I included there is a lesbian character that's part of the coven. And I wrote her in a way where there is no coming out. She doesn't have any backstory, no tragic anything.
Because we've had enough of those.
It's endless. I mean, that's even the best gay books include some sort of coming out or some sort of tragic backstory. So with this coven member, she is just mentioned, and then you find out just from pronouns that she just happens to have been married to a woman.
Right, which is how it should be. I mean, it's like, you and I, we lead our lives every day. We're not, it's like obviously, most people do have a coming out story, but like for the most part, people like you and I, we're just living our lives every day. It's not like, it's not like I'm coming out every day or something. It's like most days we're just doing what we normally do. And it just happens to be part of who we are.
Right. Exactly. I mean, when people ask me how I came out, that's kind of like, I get taken back by that because I'm like, God, that was so long ago. Like, that's not even a thing that's on my mind. It hasn't been on my mind in years. Like, that has not been a focus. And this character in the book, she's an older woman. So it wouldn't have made sense to have any sort of coming out story for her. It's just, she was married, she was widowed, and this is where we're at. Right.
Exactly. And also I feel that, especially nowadays, I mean, although, I always support LGBTQ youth, I think it's a lot easier to come out these days. I have 20 years on you. So, back when I was like, 18, 20, coming out was like, whoo, but, and, I'm even for you, when you came out, I'm sure it was more like, ooh, and now it's sort of like, ooh.
Yeah,
You know,
right. Yeah. We've
still a
we've
thing,
made
still a
amazing leaps
thing.
and bounds. Yeah.
Right.
We've really, you're even seeing now when kids are coming out that their friends are like, "Oh, it's so cool." And it's like, "Whoa, damn, like we really paved a way for you guys, because that would have been amazing if we would have been able to come out and was, such a positive thing with our friends and everything."
Absolutely. I mean, it's just, the world has just changed so much,
Yeah.
for the most part. There's still some areas that need work.
Yeah, we have a long way to go, but we've come a long way.
We've come a long way. We still have a long way to go.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, Preston, let me ask you, growing up, what were the like the sci-fi and fantasy stories and shows and books that interested you, and maybe sort of helped inspire you to want to become like a fantasy novelist?
It's probably, I think it's a lot of it is Sabrina with Melissa Joan Hart. That was right up my alley. TGI
Okay.
Fridays, and that was a big start. And then The Craft really furthered my interest in that movie, because that was more on the realistic side of how the craft actually works.
Right.
And that was just a brilliant movie.
Yes, love that movie.
And then Nick at Night, they always played Bewitched, and I
yes.
always watched it, even in black and white. And my dad was always like, "Why are you always watching these black and white shows?" And my mom was like, "Leave him alone, he likes it." And it was just because she was a witch. I loved it. So those are definitely the things that kind of paved the way for me for my interest in witches. I was a generation or two behind the Harry Potter crowd. I was a little too old for that when it started, so that was never really part of it for me.
Yes, and speaking of Harry Potter, this past year, J.K. Rowling has really
Oh yeah, she's really stuck her foot as far in her mouth as she could possibly
put her foot in her mouth, really. And it's like, for anyone who doesn't know, I believe she had a few like sort of transphobic tweets that she put out. And even like most of the cast of the Harry Potter movies, they kind of like were like, saying like, we love her, but she's wrong, kind of. And
she dug a pretty deep hole with that. It was pretty gross. When I started hearing about it, I went and looked, and the things that she was saying were just so far from reality too. Right. On top of it, she was saying that lesbian bars were being overtaken by male to female transgender people, and that they couldn't find relationships because everybody there was actually born a man. And I was like, I find that very hard to believe that that's the case, and that's something you're experiencing right now, and that your friends are experiencing that. And then, she just kept going on and on and on. And then she released this book where the murderer likes to cross-dress.
Yes.
And it was such a punch in the face for everyone. Yes. And then it's almost feels humorous to her to release a book like this. And then I know that the pen name that she used was some weird, like, anti-trans.
Yes.
It was just... there's one thing to have an opinion, and there's another thing to just, like, punch that in so hard. It's like, okay, you can have an opinion, gross, whatever, but she just never stops.
Yeah, it seems like she just keeps like digging her hole deeper. Although I've heard other people say, "Well, she has so much money, she doesn't care." She's just gonna say it, and she doesn't care. But the thing that really bothers me though is although I am not trans, I do have a lot of friends who are trans. And when we see these representations, because it's so prevalent in, books and movies and TV, where a transgender person is like this psychotic killer. It's like, and truly, 99% of all serial killers, they're cisgender white males. They're not trans. I mean, all the transgender people that I know, they're very, sweet, wonderful, loving, caring people. And, and they're more likely to be the victim of violent crime and murder
Right.
than almost any member of the general population. And, to keep putting this out there, that transgender people are like, they're all like secretly psychotic cross-dressing killers. That's what feeds into the violence against them.
Yeah, the Hollywood very much has put the stigma in everyone's head that it is a mental illness, and it's been proven time and time again that it is not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it goes all the way back to the movie Psycho, where they had Norman Bates. He dresses up as his mother so that he can be a serial killer of women, and there was another movie. I think it was in the 70s. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's called Dress to Kill with Michael Caine and Angie Dickinson, and it's basically an updated version of Psycho, where Michael Caine is like, he has to like dress. He's got like a split personality, and he dresses up as a woman, and then he kills women because he feels he can't be a. That's a perfect example, because he can't be a woman, that he's got some sort of rage. Yeah, and I remember seeing that. When I saw it, I was just a kid, and I haven't really thought about it. But when I saw J.K. Rowling was coming out with this new book where the killer was transgender, I was like, oh, wait a minute. This is just like the plot of that old movie. So she's not even doing it. It's not even an original plot, for one thing. And it's like, it's not good. It's not good.
Yeah. When you have such a strong platform like that too, you should probably keep those types of opinions to yourself if you don't really have any qualifications to say what you're saying.
Right.
So she's an author, and she, her fight back is always, I've done a lot of research. Oh, that's nice. But what is that? Everyone's telling you that your research is wrong. So maybe you should look into doing more research and finding out where you've gone wrong.
Right. I mean, if, so many people are telling you, no, this isn't right. This isn't good. I mean, take a step back and say, okay, maybe I need to, look into this, and, but she's not showing any signs.
No,
she's going to do that.
Not down at all.
Not showing any signs. Now, you said you were a little too old for like the Harry Potter stuff.
A little bit, yeah. When it started really taking off, when people were, spending the night at the bookstore waiting for it to be released the next day, I was working my first job, and I wasn't really into any of that. And I was a cool teenager who didn't read, so that really wasn't. I just bypassed it. So I never read any of the books. I've seen all the movies, but I never read the books, and that was just. I can appreciate it for what the world that she created, because it's very creative, and there's a lot of hidden messages and research went into it. But that's about as far as it goes for me with Harry.
Yeah, I never read the books. I think I've seen all the movies. Although to be honest, I remember the first one, and then after that they all sort. The first one, I liked the first one, but then after that they all sort of. By the time the last one was, I was just like, not really. It was too many movies at that point.
Yeah, it was a lot.
I just wasn't interested. Like the last one was like 2 parts, and it's like, oh no, I don't know, I can't. I just don't have. I don't have the time, the patience, or the energy. But actually, Preston, believe it or not, we're already at the halfway point of our chit chat. It always goes so fast. So I do want you to stay put. Please don't go anywhere. And everyone who's watching, I want you all to stay put as well, because we will be right back after this brief message with more of author Preston Allen, the writer of The Coven's Son. Be right back after these messages. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Talking Tony. My very special guest tonight is author Preston Allen, the writer of The Coven Son. So, Preston, thank you for sticking around through the break.
Hey, no problem.
Now, I have to ask. I noticed. I have to see your nails.
Oh, yes. Yes. Can you see them? There's
Those
trees
are
with snow on them.
beautiful.
Thank you.
I love them. I love them.
I have a great nail tech. He's amazing.
Oh, that is beautiful. Do you ever get into makeup too, or is it just the nails?
I am a makeup artist.
Oh, you are a makeup artist.
I'm a hairstylist and makeup artist.
Oh, I didn't know that. So that's the day job.
Yes, that's my other identity is hairstylist and makeup artist, and I've done. My husband is a drag performer, and
you didn't tell me that.
he is, and I'm kind of, I don't do drag, but I'm like his drag mother because I know the makeup. So I've taught him how to put on his face and do everything and cover his eyebrows. And most of the time I do it, but if I'm not feeling like it, I'm like, look, I taught you enough. Go do it. At least get your base on because I don't feel like it.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I've done makeup, I've done glam makeup on myself, not full on drag, but glam eyeshadow and things like that. And then I do my husband's alter ego and all that.
Yeah, I've had on the show a friend of mine from YouTube. I don't know if you ever follow any of the YouTube beauty influencers or anything like that. But this one person, his name is Jeremy. His YouTube channel is Mascara Masquerade, and he loves makeup as much as me, and he has like the real nails done and everything, and I'm really bad. I didn't do my nails tonight. Please don't read me, Preston. It was a trying day.
Keep them down behind your back.
Don't look at my nails, everyone. That's why I'm wearing the big boobs tonight.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
they're a distraction.
Keep your eyes up here.
Yes. Either eyes, up here or here. Don't
up here. Yeah, no lower.
So your husband does drag. I didn't know that. So
he does. Yes,
what's
it's
his
fairly
drag
new
name
for him. His drag name is Animal Waters.
Say that again.
Yep, it's Animal Waters.
Animal Waters.
Yes.
Okay. And where did that come from?
What he wanted, him and a friend of his came up with. They wanted to do something where all their last names were the same. Mm-hmm. So they wanted to create like a drag house for themselves.
Oh, okay.
They had come up with Waters, and they were just kidding. And one of them said enema, and I was like, "Oh my god!" But what if you spell it INEMA? That way it reads like a name. And it just stuck. He had to do a performance, and he had to put down a name, so he put down Animal Waters. And a star was born.
A star was born.
How long? It's so funny when they call him out, like the crowd's reaction, like, did they just say enema? It's great.
Well, actually, my name, Toni Homeperm, my boy name and my drag girl name, the first name at least, is the same. Toni. I'm always Toni, whether boy or girl. And I always tell people one of the reasons for that, I said, is because my husband would never know to call me a different name.
So he'd be screaming across the room, and it's not.
It's like if I had a name, like my drag name was, something like Regina or Karen or something. It was like it would always be Tony. So I'm like, so first off, got to keep the first name the same because he'd never know. He would never know to use it. And the last name, Homeperm, being a makeup artist, hairstylist. I don't know if you would remember from the 70s. There was like a home permanent. It was called the Toni Home Permanent. So, and they, they.
Oh, really? It was called the Toni Home Permanent?
Yeah, yeah,
That's hysterical.
There's even commercials on YouTube, like where they had these, and the women back then they had like the really teased 60s hairdos, and they're like that's a Toni. She's wearing a Toni, and they've got these big roller set teased hairdos, and so that's where Toni Home Perm came from.
Oh,
so most of the time. I was, before the pandemic, performing at a lot of nursing homes, and the nursing home people, they always know what a Toni Home Perm is.
Oh yeah,
so like
that's your audience.
I appear I do something at like a club, nobody has any idea what it means. They're too young.
Oh, that's so funny.
But that's great that your husband has a name that people love.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's my favorite part. Forget the performance. I just love seeing everyone's reaction when they call his name.
And how long have you been a makeup artist?
I think we're going on 13 years.
Oh,
13 years, hair and makeup.
And where did this love of makeup come from? Because I share it, believe me.
It was something I did. Probably starting around 13, 14, I really got into doing a lot of special effects makeup.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that what a lot of people don't even know is that special effects makeup is very much just like materials you can get anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's, Lowe's, Home Depot, Joann Fabrics. There is no shop that produces this special effects stuff. It's all everyday items. So I had access to it. I didn't need a professional license to get access to special effects makeup.
Right.
So I really kind of started playing with that. And then a lot of these makeup competitions started coming out, TV shows, and they were talking about fantasy and glam makeup mixed with all that. So then I was like, oh, I need to be well-rounded. I need to learn how to do fantasy and glam and all that. And it just all kind of shifted, or I kind of dropped the special effects and I just started doing primarily glam. And then I started doing makeup with wig styling and things like that. And then when I turned 18 and I had no college plans whatsoever, my parents were like, what are you doing with your life? And I was like, well, obviously I want to do hair. And they were like, well, then go do hair.
Go do hair. So
that's what I did.
Well, that's great. And do you style your husband's wigs?
Yes. Yep. I cut his lace fronts and I style it and I glue them down for him and everything. Yeah.
Honestly, I don't glue my wigs down. It's very rare. I don't dance. I sing live. So
so you don't have to worry about.
I don't dance. I don't run around. The most you'll get out of me is like a little this, a little of that. My wig. I'm not doing any death drops. I'm not doing any backflips. So I don't change. I don't glue the wig down. And honestly, a lot of times when I've been performing at clubs, I'm changing the wigs anyway.
Oh yeah. So yeah, you can't glue that down if you're swapping them out.
It's like they see me coming in. I built my own like this PVC wig carrier, and I'm like I walk into the gig, and I've got like 4 different hair styles on on the heads, and I'm just like out of the way, make room for the wig. So if I'm changing the wig, you can't glue the.
Yeah, no.
Well, I guess you could, but that would hurt.
That would be, I think you'd be bleeding by the end of your last performance.
Give it all for the performance. Now, did you ever do drag yourself?
Never. I've never done it. No.
Well, why not? You've got all the tools.
I know. It's just never been. I don't know. I've just never. I don't think I have the patience to beat this face for long enough. I could work on someone else, but doing it myself, I just lose my patience.
Really? That's
I just
so
couldn't do it. I can do I've done glam looks on my eyes, and that's as far as it goes. I stop. Once I'm done with the eyes, I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm tired.
Yeah. I like my friend Jeremy. He'll do a lot of times, because he works also as a hair stylist. And he'll do a very glam eye look, and just the rest is basically just soft glam. He doesn't do like a full not like a full drag look, but he's very inspired by those the rockers from like the 80s, like Poison.
Oh, yeah.
And when you look at it now, you're like, these guys look like drag queens.
I know. It's amazing.
Why didn't anybody ever call them out?
How many people grew up in the 80s that have a problem with drag queens now? And I'm like, did you not grow up in the 80s?
Did you not listen to Poison and Rat and, all these, like look at Judas Priest. I mean, they were like one of the hardest heavy metal bands. And Rob Halford, was so obviously gay, wearing like the Leatherman regalia and all this, and it's like I just find it so ironic,
Yeah, it's amazing how blind they are to all
yes.
that.
there are none so blind as those who will not see. What can I say?
There it is.
Now, one of the things I wanted to ask you, getting back to the Coven's son,
Sure.
With excuse me, Oak having like this, really sort of like a secret identity. And I was saying to you before we went on air, I was always very inspired by comic books, and like I even to this day, I feel like being Toni Holmperm is kind of like in a way. Even though I'm a drag queen, I sort of feel like this is like my superhero identity that, I get to become this different person, this different character with, abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Were you, well, you said you were a big fan of Sabrina. Were there any other shows that sort of had that, that theme? Because I think that speaks to a lot of us in the LGBTQ plus community. Like for me as a kid, I was very much into the X-Men.
Oh yeah,
and that whole thing about that if you're a mutant, and like at puberty the mutant gene activates, and it's sort of like the same thing when you're gay. All of a sudden it's like you're like a freshman in high school, and all of a sudden the senior boys are all of a sudden you're like, oh, why am I like so drawn to them? But you can't say anything, you have to keep it quiet. And so was there anything other than Sabrina like that sort of like spoke to you in those terms?
Not really in those type of terms with kind of having to hide who you are. I never really was one that resonated with a lot of the superhero thing. I would say I was really into Power Rangers. Oh. And I think that had a lot to do with it as well, because, they couldn't tell anybody who they were, and they had to, no matter what happened, it was a secret.
Right. Right.
And then all the information that came out later that the Blue Ranger actually quit the show because he was harassed and bullied because he was gay. And then that was like an adult moment where I was like, oh, wow, like this is, we do exist, and we have existed this whole time. And even that was, he wasn't allowed to say anything because it was like a kid's show. And even though that has nothing to do with, coming out. And so that was a really interesting thing. It was almost exciting to find out, when you become an adult, that all these kids shows and icons when they come out, that you're just when Lance Bass came out from NSYNC, it was just like, wow, at least there's one of us, like we are around. We were just not we weren't allowed to be.
And I mean now it's like there so many people coming out. And actually was it yesterday or the day before that Elliot Page, formerly Ellen Page, came out as transgender, and it's such a great thing. I remember when, and I have to make sure I use correct pronouns now, when he gave that speech. I think it was at the for the human rights group, where he was at that point was just talking about coming out. And he made like that speech that just was like a very, very powerful, moving thing, because up until that point he had always had to hide that he was gay,
Right.
and now he's you know, I guess feeling now that he knows now that not he was not just gay, but he is transgender. And having somebody like that with such a platform to come out and be their authentic self, I think is just such a great thing, especially for a lot of young people that are questioning their own gender identity.
Yeah, well, I think it's really great that he was able to have that platform prior to coming out, because a lot of the trans community, the people that they have are like Laverne Cox, who went into the spotlight as a trans woman.
Right.
There was no coming out because
True.
we didn't know who she was until after the fact.
Right.
So them seeing someone create this career for themselves and say, oh, by the way, I'm like you, I think is really, really powerful for the young kids right now who are trying to figure themselves out.
Yeah. And it seems like more and more people are redefining themselves as transgender, non-binary, gender fluid. That's so much more than, you know, I could ever imagine. When I was a child, I remember vaguely there was like one person, Christine Jorgensen, who was very famous as being one of the very first people to have gender reassignment surgery. But it was kind of like, you know, an oddity to hear about anything like that.
Yeah.
And nowadays we hear so much about, you know, there's so many people and, you know, so many actors and actresses who identify as non-binary, gender fluid, etc. Where we never heard about that, especially when I was young.
Yeah, no, and especially now, before, if you did come out, that's goodbye to everything.
Right.
Goodbye to your sponsorship, goodbye to your job. You're never, you know, when Ellen,
your career.
she got canceled and blackmailed from, you know, blacklisted from Hollywood for years.
Right.
Now they're coming out and you know, when Elliot Page came out, the Umbrella Academy said that they were going to go ahead and retroactively go back and fix his name in the credits.
Right.
No, that was unheard of, you know, 15 years ago. That
absolutely,
they would have been recast.
Right. Exactly. So it's a great thing to see that, you know, we're making strides in the right direction, I guess.
Yeah.
Is
people aren't being punished for being who they are.
Exactly. And people are, you know, feeling more and more that they can actually be their authentic, true selves.
Yeah. It's important. You know,
Yeah.
people look up to them, and
Yeah.
a lot of these celebrities, especially now, I find celebrities are looked up to a lot more by a younger crowd than what I remember growing up. You know, they're getting younger and younger. With the role models, having a target audience of younger kids. So it's good for them to see a mix of everybody.
Yes. And of course, social media plays a large part in that.
Yeah. I mean, that's extended our reach drastically, you know, and it's given us, you know, a lot of people take advantage of the anonymous factor, but it gives kids that can't be identified someone to talk to, because they don't have to worry about who they are, or if people are going to find out, or if they're going to tell anybody. You know, it kind of gives them that free lifeline to talk to someone.
Absolutely. Now, getting back to the Coven Sun, because that's one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on here, and I want you to be able to promote it, because as you said, it's only been out 4 months.
I think December's month 4. Yeah.
Month 4.
Yeah.
So, you know, writing your first novel, you know, I have to assume it's almost like giving birth in a way. You know, you've gestated this entity, and then, you know, then it goes out into the world, and you sort of, you know, you're like the proud parent, you know, like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's my baby.
Exactly. You know, and of course, you know, you want everyone to love it and to, you know, and purchase it.
Yes.
And read it.
Yes. You know, it's one of those things where like I have a new appreciation for books now that I've written one. You don't realize until you experience it yourself just how much someone's like heart and soul actually goes into writing something like that.
Of course.
And then you see people, which so far I haven't gotten any, but you see like these 1-star reviews on books talking about how awful it is. And I'm just like, oh, maybe you just shouldn't leave a review because that's so heart-wrenching for the author to see. I mean, the lowest review I've gotten has been a 3-star, and that was just average, and they didn't say anything about it. They just clicked 3 and just left it at that. And it even that, it was like, oh, why was it 3? Why wasn't it 4? Why didn't you give me at least the 4th one? You know, so it definitely gives you a new appreciation for, you know, the effort that goes into it. You know, you might be reading it being like, oh, this is horrible, but that person probably put blood, sweat, and tears into it. So of course. You got to remember, be a little bit more kind.
Yeah, everybody needs to be a little bit more kind.
It's rough to see that, and I fully expected it. It really helped me to watch some of my favorite authors go through their reviews and look at their 1-star reviews, because some of these like major award-winning huge authors that are super successful that I really look up to have 1-star reviews, and they've got tons of them, and people say, oh, this writing is trash and I hated it, and I'm like, well, okay, so you can get them, so I'm prepared. You know, if someone as big as you still gets them, it's going to be my whole career, I guess. So it makes it a little easier to deal with. But I definitely would like people to realize, like, it really is a lot goes into it.
Absolutely. Now, are there plans for a second novel?
Yes, I am writing a second novel right now.
Okay.
It'll be a while because I'm gonna really take my time with this one. I'll look at a sequel for The Coven Son maybe in the future, but right now this is going to be its own book.
Oh, something completely different.
It'll be something different, yes. And this one is actually going to have like an LGBTQ theme. It's the code name right now for the book is called Afterlife, and it's kind of an inspiration behind. So it's based on a gay couple, and one of them dies. And we get to see what happens after you die.
Oh.
And so it's going to be like a very dark comedy. So it's going to be very funny. It's kind of inspired by like The Waiting Room in Beetlejuice.
Well, I love The Waiting Room.
See what happens and how everyone's died. It's kind of the inspiration behind that is I'm kind of doing a new take on what happens after you die and giving people like an answer.
Well, I mean, really, any answer to that is valid.
No one can prove me wrong.
Nobody can prove you wrong. That's one of the best things. So now, Preston, let me ask, where can people find The Coven Son to purchase?
So you can find it on my website, which is authorprestonallen.com. And it is pretty much everywhere books are sold online. It's on Amazon, it's on Google Play, it's on Kobo, it's on Walmart, it's on Books A Million, Barnes & Noble. Pretty much if you Google The Coven Son, you'll get the whole list. It's one of the first things that pops up.
That's great.
Super easy to find. And then my website, if you actually go directly to my website, you can buy signed copies from my website, and I also include the links to all the other stores in case you have Amazon Prime and don't want to pay for shipping or want other options. I've got those all listed.
And now it's available as either paperback or ebook?
Yes, both paperback, ebook, and the ebook is the Nook and the Kindle version. And right now I'm in the works of working on the Audible version, but that'll be a few months before that comes out because I have to record it and everything. But I am in the process of getting an audiobook out.
So you will be reading it yourself.
I'm going to narrate it. Yes,
you're going to narrate it. Yes.
Yep, that's going to be on.
That must be very exciting.
It is. It is really exciting. It's really tedious. That's why I haven't started it yet because I really have to be in the mental headspace for it because. Everything has to be a separate file, which can be very frustrating. It's like to say chapter 1, you have to say chapter 1, and then you have to save that, and then you have to put that in a folder, and then you have to read, and then you have to go back and listen to it, and you have to record have to record at the same time of day every day because your voice changes throughout the day.
Oh, I never
So
really noticed that.
There's all these crazy rules that are like in there.
Oh.
It's like, this is the best way to get a similar, a consistent read all the way through that I had never thought of. And I was like, this is way more work than I anticipated, but I want to do it because so many people do audiobooks instead of books.
Yeah. Now, is that something that's kind of prevalent, that more people are, picking up, listening to audiobooks than actually reading text or print?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I know a lot of the people who love books really love books. They love the smell. They love the feel. Right. And then you have the ebook people, which I've noticed a lot of older people or people with poor eyesight like the ebooks because they can enlarge the print.
Enlarge it. Yeah, sure.
It makes it a lot easier. But I think I read the other day, it was like a 68% increase in Audible books in the last 3 years. Wow. It's like that's really become booming because people they put it on their way to work. Mm-hmm. They put it on. I just started Audible to see what I was getting into, and there's a sleep timer, so you can put your headphones in and go to sleep, and it'll stop the book around the time that you think you fall asleep. Oh, so it seems to be really popular.
Do they have a recommendation of the most boring?
Yeah, what can you fall asleep to?
I mean, sometimes I do that with some of my on YouTube, the beauty influencers that I watch. I mean, sometimes I do that. They're they're doing makeup and they're they kind of they're talking, but they're very mellow and describing things. Yeah. And sometimes that just puts me right out.
Well, it can. And then they do that little montage with the soft music of them doing it. And then it's so easy. I totally understand that.
That will not happen with the Coven Sun.
No, there's too much going on.
That will not happen with the Coven Sun. So don't get, when it's out on Audible, don't put it on and think you're going to fall asleep, because it's not going to happen.
You'll be woken up very rudely by screaming. There's a lot of adventure in that book. There's no way to fall asleep to it.
Absolutely. So that's very, very good to know that it will keep you enthralled and entertained.
Yeah, I made it a point to really have an adventure pretty much through every chapter.
Mm-hmm. And as you said, this has been how many years in the making So
I mean, if you we went from 16, 17 years old of working on it, and then we went a huge gap up until recently. But when when my husband said, make this book, stop talking about it, just make it, from start to finish, it took about a year.
A year
total. Yeah. It took me about 4 months to write the whole thing. And I'm talking 5,000 words a day, way more than the average person. But getting up at 3 a.m. when I had an idea, instead of just staying in bed, I got up and I just started writing. And that was a 4-month process. And then the other time frame was editing and approving edits and making changes and working on the cover and approving and denying, the illustrator what they're doing and how they're working on it.
That's amazing. Well, Preston, I'm just so happy for you that you're having this great success with the Coven Sun. And I don't know if you can believe it, but we're already at the end of the show.
Oh, there we go.
It's I told you, the time, it just goes like that. It's a good thing you didn't tell me at the beginning of the show that your husband was a drag queen, because I may have.
Well, maybe you can have him on for a show and you could talk to him for a while.
We'll have to see. Maybe we'll make that happen. And quickly, what is your website where people can find you?
It's authorprestonallen.com.
authorprestonallen.com. And of course, the book is The Coven Sun. Available everywhere: Amazon, Walmart. What was it? Books
a Million.
Books a Million. Everywhere.
Just Google it. Comes right up.
Google it. It will come up. All right, Preston. Thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you so much.
It was so wonderful to chat with you, and thank you everyone for tuning in. So until the next time, good night, everyone, and please continue to stay safe. Good night.
Twilly-dilly-dee, 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 tweet, tweet. tweet, tweet.
She talks to the people all night long, chatting and a gabbing and a singing her song. All the divas down on Rainbow Street love to hear Toni go tweet, tweet, tweet. Talking Toni.
Tweet, tweet.
Talk, talking Toni.
Tweet, tweet.
Oh, talking Toni, gonna talk tonight.